The wind howled that night as if the mountains themselves were screaming. Dark clouds rolled over the Wyoming plains, swallowing the final traces of sunset like a predator devouring its prey. Lightning cracked open the sky, revealing a long, lonely stretch of land where only one warm light flickered in the endless darkness, the lantern of Redstone Ranch, owned by a man whose name carried equal parts respect and tragedy. Jonathan Hale, once known as the youngest and most promising rancher of the county, lived as a quiet shadow now. Rugged, tall, and broad-shouldered, with a face carved by loss more than years, he worked his ranch alone. His barn was filled with horses stronger than most men, but his house was filled with silence deeper than any canyon. Every night, he sat beside the stone fireplace, staring at the single-framed photograph on the mantel. His late wife, Clara Hale, the only woman who once understood the storms inside him. Clara died 2 winters ago. Her laughter disappeared with the snow, and Jonathan never quite thawed afterwards. That night, rain hammered against the windows like fists demanding entry. Jonathan sat sharpening his old hunting knife when a sudden loud banging hit his door. One knock, then another, then frantic pounding, as if someone was running for their life. He stood, hand instinctively slipping to the revolver hanging near the coat rack. Nobody ever came this far without warning. Not in a storm, not at night. He approached the door, boots heavy on the wooden floor. Bang, bang, bang. A woman's voice tore through the thunder. "Please, somebody help me." Jonathan hesitated only a half-second before unbolting the lock and yanking the door open. A drenched woman stumbled inside, collapsing right at his feet. Her dress was muddy, torn from brambles, and soaked through with icy rain. She gasped for breath, shivering violently, strands of wet hair glued to her pale, frightened face. Jonathan dropped to one knee. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" Her eyes fluttered open, hazel eyes, filled with terror and exhaustion. She tried to speak, but her lips trembled too hard. Jonathan wrapped his coat around her and lifted her easily into his arms. She was light, frighteningly so, as if she hadn't eaten properly in days. He carried her to the fire and sat her in a chair, placing a blanket around her shoulders. "You're safe. This is Redstone Ranch," he said calmly. "Tell me what happened. Were you being chased?" She blinked, but instead of answering, tears spilled silently down her cheeks. Jonathan poured her warm water, handed it to her slowly, so she wouldn't drop it. "My name is Jonathan," he said. "You're hurt, scared, and freezing. Start with your name." She swallowed and whispered, voice breaking. "My name is Amelia Reed. And what brought you here in the middle of a storm?" She inhaled shakily. "I was running from a man who wants to take me and my life." Jonathan stiffened, eyes sharpening. "Is he after you now?" "I don't know," she whispered, "but I had nowhere else to go." Her voice cracked, and she covered her face. Jonathan placed a hand on the table, steady and unthreatening. "You're safe tonight. Nobody steps foot on this land without my permission." For the first time, she looked directly at him, studying his face, his voice, something familiar, almost haunting. She whispered, "Has anyone ever told you? You look like someone they lost." Jonathan felt a strange electric chill, but forced a small nod. A few. Lightning flashed, thunder shaking the cabin. Amelia flinched and gripped a blanket. Jonathan's tone softened. "You'll stay the night. Tomorrow, when the storm clears, you can explain everything." Amelia nodded, exhausted. He guided her to the guest room and stepped back to leave, but she grabbed his sleeve, gently, almost desperately. "Don't leave yet, please. Just stay a moment." Jonathan paused. His heart stumbled. Clara used to say the same words when frightened by thunder. He slowly sat in a nearby chair. Amelia lay back, breathing more evenly now. Her eyes slowly drifted shut, exhaustion taking control, but a whisper escaped her lips. "Good night, Ethan." Jonathan froze. Ethan. That name. Only Clara had ever used that name. Her private nickname for him, spoken only in love, never in public, never to anyone else. His breath caught in his throat. Nobody else in the world knew it. He stood abruptly, pulse racing. "Why did you call me that?" he demanded, not harsh, but shaken. Amelia blinked confusedly, barely conscious. "You look like him, sound like him," she whispered. "I didn't mean to. I'm sorry." "Ethan." Jonathan stepped back slowly, mind spiraling. Who was she? How did she know the name? Was she delirious? Or was fate, for the first time in years, knocking twice? The storm raged outside. Inside, another storm was just beginning. Morning sunlight seeped through the cabin windows, warm and golden, as though the storm had never existed. Amelia awoke slowly, startled for a moment, then remembered where she was. Jonathan quietly pushed the door open with a tray. Hot biscuits, fried eggs, and fresh milk. "You should eat," he said quietly. "You fainted from exhaustion." She thanked him, then hesitated. "About last night. I said something strange, didn't I?" Jonathan set the tray down and met her eyes. "You called me Ethan, a name nobody else has ever used." Amelia gasped, covering her mouth. "I didn't mean I wasn't myself." Jonathan sat, voice steady but intense. "How do you know that name?" "I don't," she whispered. "I swear I don't. It just came out like a memory that wasn't mine." Jonathan exhaled, conflicted. "You need to tell me the truth, all of it." Amelia nodded slowly, hands trembling around the blanket. "I was married," she began, "but my husband passed away 4 months ago. Before he died, he talked about a place he said could protect me if anything ever happened, a ranch far from town, owned by a man with honor." Jonathan blinked in surprise. "He never told me the rancher's name," she said, "just that he trusted him." Jonathan leaned forward. "What was your husband's name?" She looked down, tears forming. "Ethan Reed." The world stopped. Jonathan stared, breath locked in his chest. Her late husband shared the same secret name Clara used. It wasn't coincidence, not anymore. "How did your husband know about me?" Jonathan asked quietly. Amelia wiped her tears. "He said when he worked as a wagon guard years ago, he was saved by a rancher who gave him shelter and half his own food. He never forgot the man's kindness and said if I was ever in danger, that rancher was my last safe place." Jonathan felt a long-buried memory rise. A winter night 7 years ago. A wounded young guard he helped and never saw again. "That was me," Jonathan whispered. Amelia covered her lips, stunned. Then everything he told me was real. Jonathan nodded slowly, understanding forming like a sunrise. "And why are you running?" Her body shivered again. "My husband's boss, Victor Hargrove, a wealthy cattleman, wanted to marry me after Ethan died. He was obsessed. When I refused, he swore he would take me by force and claim my husband's land." Jonathan's jaw tightened. Men like Hargrove were the rot of the frontier. "You're safe here," Jonathan said. "I won't let anyone lay a hand on you." Amelia's eyes filled, not just with fear, but relief. For the first time, she believed him. The threat arrives. 3 days passed. Amelia regained strength, helped with the horses, and spoke with Jonathan in soft, cautious conversations that slowly turned into gentle, natural ones. She laughed once, and Jonathan felt his heart jolt painfully. Claire's laughter used to sound like that. One evening, as they fed the horses near the barn, hoofbeats thundered in the distance. Jonathan instinctively stepped in front of Amelia. For armed riders approached, dust clouds rising behind them. At the front rode Victor Hargrove. He smirked cruelly. "Well now, Mrs. Reed, you caused me a lot of trouble." Amelia trembled, but Jonathan didn't move. "This land isn't yours," Victor barked. "Hand her over." Jonathan stared coldly. "You're trespassing. Leave." Victor motioned his men. "Take her." Jonathan drew his revolver, so fast the riders froze. "I won't ask twice," Jonathan warned. But Victor spit on the ground. "A widower who still cries over a grave? You think you can protect her?" Jonathan's eyes burned, sharper than steel. "I didn't save her because she reminds me of someone I lost." He stepped closer. I'm saving her because no woman deserves to live in fear. Something in his voice, unshakable, dangerous, made Victor hesitate. You have 10 seconds, Jonathan said, thumb on the hammer. Turn around or dig your own graves. Victor cursed, but fear finally cracked his arrogance. He retreated, yelling threats as they galloped away. Amelia collapsed into tears, and Jonathan held her, not out of pity, but out of vow. You're safe, he whispered, for as long as you choose to stay. A new dawn of hearts. That night, near the quiet fireplace, Amelia spoke softly. Your wife, you loved her deeply. Jonathan nodded. She was my world. Amelia touched his hand gently. Do you believe love can happen twice without betraying the first? Jonathan looked up, eyes wet but no longer hopeless. I think love returns in different forms when the heart is ready. Amelia leaned her head on his shoulder, not as a replacement, not as a ghost, but as a beginning. And Jonathan finally realized. Claire didn't leave him. She led someone to him. A storm brought Amelia to his ranch. Destiny brought her to his heart. And for the first time since Clara's death, Jonathan whispered the words he thought he would never speak again. Stay, not because you have nowhere else, but because you belong here if you choose to. Tears slipped down Amelia's cheeks, but they were no longer from fear. I choose to, she whispered. Outside, the wind finally rested. Inside, two broken stories found the ending they never expected. Together,